AJ, what's going on, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, Margaret?
Doing very well, very well. Really excited to. I don't want too much pomp and circumstance today because you got some really good stuff to jump into. Business planning for 2022.
Yeah, and with real estate, the way it is with us being on such a lag in terms of how we get paid 90 days after the activities that we do, 2022 has already started.
Yeah,
The things that we're doing now are going to impact the first quarter of next year. So I think it's important that we get after it in October for sure. Things are still busy, of course. Everybody's just trying to keep up with the demand, but if you can grab an hour like this and dedicate that time to trying to get some clarity around what you want to accomplish next year, you're going to be light years ahead of the competition. And that's what it's all about. Giving
nice.
you guys the tools you need.
All right, so I'm going to give you a quick intro just in case there's anyone on here who does not know Coach AJ. So, guys, I'm Morgan Carey here with CEO of Real Estate Webmasters, and we are at the REW Academy with AJ Hazzi, who is a top producing customer of ours here in British Columbia, Canada. And AJ is also the founder of the Vantage West Academy. And so he provides coaching for agents, teams, and brokerages that want to get to that next level of production. And of course, what we love to do here at REW is put our money where our mouth is. And so, we're in real estate ourselves, and we love to bring coaches and customers to our academy who actually walk the walk and do this on a daily basis. And AJ, I would love for you to just give us 2 minutes of how your year's gone and what your brokerage looks like so they can understand sort of the perspective you're bringing to this business planning session. And then let's jump into these slides.
Yeah, you bet. Well, I think like a lot of people on this call, 2021 was a banner year for us. It's by far our most productive year yet. We don't want to celebrate too soon, but we do think we're closing in on $10 million in GCI for the first time ever as a team. So that's pretty exciting. And the planning we did last year paid off this year without question. We have 13 frontline agents. We've got 3 ISAs and then about 6 showing partners that leverage our top frontline agents. The top third of our agents in our team are going to do over $1 million in GCI. So the top third has been really, really productive. And those are the ones primarily leveraged through that showing partner model. We've scaled almost exclusively with pay-per-click leads through REW. And so that's been the secret sauce for us in terms of scaling. And then of course, just adding systems and building these little pieces of the puzzle as we've gone along. And, I didn't wake up in this position. Obviously I started way back in 2003. And for the first 10 years of my career, I kind of muddled through it just based on my own talent and ability to put deals together. And, by the sort of luck of the, draw, I was able to do a decent amount of business, but I never had any systems. I didn't have anything scalable. I wasn't really the complete package as a CEO. It wasn't until I invested into some coaching and I found my current business partner and director of operations, Michael. He taught me how to put systems in place and how to have procedures and all these different things. And we're going to talk about a lot of that stuff here today. And with what we're going to talk about, I'm condensing what I'm working on as a 3-hour event. I'm going to try and get it done in an hour. It is going to be fast and furious. It might be a little overwhelming, the amount of content we're going to go through. So what I want you to know is that no matter where you are, you don't need to implement all of this. You just need to pick a few things that you want to implement next year. And it's that Kaizen approach, that incremental improvement over time, so that 3-5 years from now, that you've built the business of your dreams. But it doesn't happen overnight. Don't get discouraged if you listen to this webinar and you think, holy crap, there is so much here for me to implement. This is really just about grabbing the little pieces that you need to get to that next level. Now, everybody got the toolkit that I sent out in advance, Morgan?
Yeah, so that is, Eliana has sent out to everyone on the webinar a link to the spreadsheet. But Eliana, if you could please, if you haven't already, share that link in the chat. So guys, there is a spreadsheet or a workbook that we have distributed here at Real Estate Webmasters, courtesy of AJ. Should be publicly accessible. If you can just throw in the chat for just use everyone. Just let us know if you've got that workbook. If you got it, if you have any issues opening it, just go ahead and say yes, got it. Stuart Neal says everyone, yes, perfect. Looks like it's working. John's got it. Lots of yeses. That's great. And just to further AJ's point on Fast and Furious, guys, this is available for replay. And so, definitely we want to keep this private. This is AJ's private coaching stuff here. But, if there's anyone who, it's better to sort of be dialed in right now and, take your notes if you can. But we'll be able to make this available for you for replay as well. So don't worry if there's a piece of the content that you wanted to revisit. There will be some time, maybe a little bit of time for questions at the end. But because there's so much content here, and because it's condensed, we might not have too much time for questions, which is exactly why you should reach out to AJ if this is the kind of stuff you want to learn more about. And so we'll be dropping AJ's Instagram and a bunch of stuff on how to get a hold of him in the chat so that you can follow up. He's super accessible on social. So,
yeah,
definitely hit him up.
And then one other thing I think you wanted me to include was a free 1-hour strategy session for anybody that wants to maybe take the next step in terms of customizing this plan for your business specifically.
So let's jump into it. I'll get off here, and thank you so much, AJ.
Yeah, you bet. I'm excited to get going through this. I just want to give everybody just a brief overview of what you've got here. There's all these tabs at the bottom. Can everybody see this on the screen? Not too badly?
I can see it just fine.
Okay, right on. So first step, what we've got here is this this tactical plan. So I'm gonna go through the 7 different components of your business, and where you see this, lead generation, lead conversion, that kind of thing. We're going to go through these almost like modules. So you can put your notes in here, and then you can determine when you want to implement this stuff as well. So this is really just a place to gather your notes from this webinar. Of course, you can do it from a notepad if you're analog, but I just wanted to give you guys a tool here to keep all your notes organized. The other thing, the next pillar the next tab down below is what's called a 4-pillar audit. This is going to be your opportunity to go through and give yourself a score out of 100 as to where your business sits right now. So you give yourself a rating from 1 through 5 on each of these 4 pillars. So you've got a sales and marketing pillar, you've got an operations pillar, a finance pillar, and then you've got your executive leadership pillar. Okay. And if any of you have any questions about what these things mean, like for example, this one here, which has clarity around MVV and roles, that's mission, vision, and values. Okay, so I just want to make sure you guys don't get tripped up on the acronyms. I think everything else is fairly self-explanatory. But once you made a copy of this, you can go and you can actually give yourself a score on this. It's a really great tool for knowing where you are. The next step is this goal setting tab. So there's all these questions you're going to want to ask yourself. Like, you want to know what your personal living expenses are. You want to make a decision around what investments you want to make this year. You want to know what your savings goals are, any special trips or purchases, anything you're going to do in terms of rewarding yourself for hitting your goals, and what charitable contribution you want to make. That will go into this green spreadsheet here and help you figure out how much cash you're going to need to fund those dreams. And then up here, I've modeled this around $1 million business because I think, that encapsulates most people's vision for where they want their business to go. And so we're going to have a conversation around splitting that up between 50% take home and 50% business expenses. Now, a lot of you who net more than that are probably thinking, holy crap. I'm going to explain to you why I think that's to your benefit as we go through. Once that step's done, we're going to step into what's called the top-down planning. So using that same $1 million as an example, you'll plug your average commission per transaction in. So we used ours, which is $12,500. So if an agent wants to do $1 million in GCI, they have to sell 80 homes. The next is to decide whether that's coming from the list side or the buy side. I would use your last year's performance. If you were 50-50, plug that in. If you were 70% buyers, 30% listings, put that in, and that will auto populate how many list sides and buy sides you need and how many total ends per month you need to hit your goal. Then it gets really granular after that. So you can see, you'll want to know your number of, excuse me, how many listings you took versus how many sold. So, 80% is pretty standard. Similarly, with how many buyers you bring on, how many move to sold. So 50% is the number we use for ours. That means you got to take 50 listings next year and 80 new buyers need to be onboarded. You can get that by closing 65% of your listing appointments. Many of you will close at a much higher rate, but that's a really safe percentage to use for planning. You always want to give yourself a little bit of cushion there. And then similarly, 65% of your buyer appointments will result in you deciding to work together, which means you need to go on 77 appointments for listings and 123 appointments for buyers. So you can see we're getting really granular here. Then we drop that down into a monthly, and then we drop it into a weekly. So what that really equates to do $1 million worth of business is you need 1.5 listing appointments per week and 2.5 buyer appointments per week. Okay. Then we take it a step further. well, how many contacts for our leads that we're working with do we need in order to get an appointment? Well, 1 in 10 of the leads tend to work out in terms of being worthy of an appointment. So we put 10% in there, which takes you to how many contacts per month you need to be making, which we'll use in our next scorecard as well. How many calls do you need to make in order to get a contact? Well, usually you have to make about 5 outbound attempts in order to connect with one person. So again, we've got that there. This will crank out the amount of calls per month. How many minutes do you need to make a call? Like you can see, we're getting really granular. It works all the way down to the bottom, where you need about 3 hours a day of prospecting time, an hour a day on the listing side, 2 hours a day on the buy side, to generate enough business to do the $1 million. Okay. Now we can have a discussion around who's going to do that prospecting. Is it going to be you? Is it going to be an ISA? Is it going to be one of these third-party companies that can do it for you? Lots of different ways to get leverage, but that is the amount of contacts you need in order to hit that goal. And that's what top-down planning is all about. It's breaking it down to the ridiculously granular so that you know that you can hit the goal you've set for yourself by just taking a specific amount of action. Everybody with me so far, or did I geek out too much on the numbers? Throw in the chat if you guys are still with me. I see no chat. All right. Okay, next tab along the bottom is this goal summary. So this breaks it down once again and leaves it all in there for you to have every single thing in one sort of dashboard. I won't go too much into that because I want to be mindful of time. I've even got on here a business budget, which you can use. This will calculate how much money you can expect to spend along all the different. So you want to get your budget square. Part of every business plan is to have a budget. So I took $1 million. I spent $500,000 a year to create leverage. I did that through 15% investment in lead generation. It's $150K a year. 20% of that I'm putting into support, which is $200,000 a year in support. Operations, which includes your, that's your broker split, all your licensing fees, your software, your hardware, all that stuff. That goes into operations. You got $100K to spend there, probably plenty. And then you got 50 grand, that 5%, to put out fires and buy washers and dryers and, do all the little things that just come up. So that's how $1 million gets broken down. I've even gone a step further in here, this dark purple box. If half of your business, based on your plan, is going to come from leads and the other half is going to come from your own center of influence, then 42 deals need to come from the ads that you're running. If you use a basic conversion of 1.5%, which is pretty standard across the board and across most of my coaching clients, that means you need 2,800 leads. You've got a plan for this. If your cost per lead is $15, that means your lead budget's going to be about 42 grand, which is 3,500 bucks a month, which all slots nicely into this budget. So you don't have to use $1 million budget, but those percentages that I'm using there will all work. And you can take this and calculate everything you need. Next piece of the puzzle is your scorecard. This is the first 12 weeks of next year. So again, I've taken the same $1 million business and I've worked it out based on the numbers. So every single week, you're going to populate the numbers. This is your funnel from top to bottom. You want 1,100 traffic, 1,100 site visits, should yield on forced registration. About 5% would be a very average site conversion. Should get you 55 leads a week, which means you're responsible to make 200 dials, connect with 40 people, book 2 listing appointments and 3 buyer appointments each week to have 1.5 or 2.5 show up, 1 or 2 sign, 2 deals a week get done. 1 is from your center of influence and 1 is from inside sales or your own prospecting efforts. And you want to get a referral, or not a referral, excuse me, a testimonial from 1 out of every 2 deals you do. So this scorecard will service you really well. And you've even got 4-week and 12-week averages that auto calculate at the end. So that's what we've got there for you guys in terms of the tools and the toolkit. I just wanted to give you a brief overview before we kind of really get into it here. Everybody good with that? Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to move into present mode here. Do a little thought exercise. What do people on this call want? I want some interaction here. Do you want more money or do you want more time? We got more time with more money, both money. All right, Andrew, I appreciate your honesty. More time, Mark wants. Right on. So, yeah, you guys are on, you guys enlightened bunch. I like it. Most people would say that they want a combination of both, but if you could only have one and money was satisfied, I think we can all agree that we would want more time, because time is really the currency of wealth these days. So controlling your time comes from one thing and one thing only, and that's leverage. And in this game, he who figures out leverage first wins. And so really, to properly define leverage is the idea of a one input creating far more output on the other side. So you want to maximize the output from every single one of your inputs. So there's examples. We can leverage capital, we can leverage technology, and we can leverage talent or other people, right? And when we get this across all three, that's when our business really, really fires. So starting with capital, I'll give you an example. You can invest 50% of the revenue that your business creates to create time freedom, location freedom, and scalability. That's leverage. You could invest $5,000 a month into lead generation and make $50,000 a month. That's leverage. You could take your profits and invest $100,000 of those every year into a $500,000 asset and create multi-generational wealth. Again, that's leverage. You should be doing all of these things, and you should have a plan around creating as much leverage in your life as you can. So that's capital. The next thing you want to leverage is technology. Examples of that would be to build a plan inside your CRM to nurture leads. You do that once, and then you let the automation take care of it from there. Highly, highly leveraged. You record a bomb video that's specific to almost anybody in your database who might be considering moving. You send it out to hundreds of people. One recording, hundreds of touches, highly, highly leveraged. Again, you're using the technology to do that. You create one piece of YouTube content, something that's evergreen, something that's going to stand the test of time. You record it once, and for years, you have something on YouTube that brings more clientele to you. Again, highly, highly leveraged. So you want to be spending your time and making your plan to leverage whatever technologies you've got in your toolbox. Talent, though, is the biggest, okay? And this is where I find most realtors get stuck, is they find themselves in a pattern of, if it's going to be done, I've got to do it, or no one will operate at my standard. And this whole idea that it has to be us gets a lot of people stuck on the hamster wheel, where they're just going 100 miles an hour, working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, 7 days a week in perpetuity. And so there's four major pieces to the leverage game. Number one is you need a super admin. That's your operations director or your director of operations. This is the person that really is the back end and runs your business and understands it from beginning to end. Once you've got that super admin in place, the next thing you want to consider leveraging is the ISA. Again, if you want to hit $1 million, you know you got to spend 3 hours a day doing prospecting. Let's all be honest. No one on this call wants to spend 3 hours a day on the horn. So with that in mind, there are people or companies who will do this for you. So you have to decide whether you want to invest in somebody in-house. That takes a lot longer to pay off, but will likely pay off better. Or do you want to go the virtual route and hire a company like Agentology? There's a million of these types of companies. Once you've got that in place, the next piece of the puzzle for leveraging talent is a salaried showing partner. Now, this isn't the same as a buyer's agent who would work on commission only. This is somebody who you would actually pay, maybe a $3,000 a month salary to, and maybe 5% of GCI, and give them an opportunity to earn while they learn the business. And they might give you 2 years in this apprentice role where they get a chance to learn under a very productive realtor, but they're giving you back your evenings, they're giving you back your weekends, and they're allowing you to be in 2 places at once. Now, eventually that showing partner does graduate and want to become an agent of their own. And it's your job to cast a vision large enough to encapsulate theirs. And hopefully they'll stay on your team and be an agent and a producing agent on your team. But that is sort of the 4 layers of the talent leverage game. And you want to look at where you are on that and make a goal this year to get to that next level. So right now is a good opportunity as we get into the fourth quarter to take inventory of what happened last year. And I do this with all my coaching clients, and I do this with all my agents, is to think about the time when you were really on a roll this year, that sort of 2 or 3 months where you had it going on, you had your mojo working. What did you do before that made that happen? Everybody just take a second here with their notes or whatever and just think to themselves, what was the input that made me busy for the 90 days that followed that? I know for me this year was I decided to go through my whole database and just hit it. I was doing 8-word emails. I was doing bombs. There was just a lot of activity in terms of, you know, the amount of texts I was sending out. I just went in there and it was on a sales contest that we did. It was about the amount of proactive activities where you got points. And when we gamified that, the following 90 days were absolutely monstrous. We sold 200 homes in the next 90 days. So that for me was the input. I want you guys all to take into consideration what you did, because everybody would have had a good run this year. Maybe it was the whole year, but you would have had a standout period. Try to think back to what you did right before that. All right. What will we stop doing? You've got to create bandwidth. And just as important as the things that you do are the things that you don't do. So I want you to take inventory as well of like, what are some of the things that I did this year that were kind of a time vampire? They didn't really pay off. This is the stuff that we need to snip now so that we can create the space and create the bandwidth to implement some of the stuff you're going to be learning on the rest of this webinar. It's tough to do this because I want to give you guys time to write the notes, but just make sure that, you know, you make a little space on your journal or your notebook to add in and flesh this out a little later on, because I got to keep rolling here. 4 pillars audit, we talked about that. Make sure you take the time to do that. It's really illuminating and it's going to help you establish the gaps in your business. If you've got some stuff, maybe it's accurate and timely reporting. Maybe you're a 1 out of 5 on that. You know that that's one of the things you want to shore up, maybe even before the end of the year. So this will give you a lot of clarity around where the gaps are in your business. And we run, like I say, a $10 million business with this exact 4-pillar audit at a leadership level. Okay, well, before we can create a business plan, we need to know where we are going, okay? And this is something that I love doing with my coaching clients and also the agents at Vantage West, which is to really forecast out like 10 years. Imagine your ideal business 7-10 years from now. What does it look like? What does your net worth look like? How many hours are you working? Have you scaled back down to maybe you're only working 4 days a week? How many vacations are you taking? What does your house look like? What are you driving? You know, what's your charitable contribution? Is there anything else in terms of significance? Is there a foundation you want to start? Did you pay off your parents' mortgage? What is the thing that's so appealing to you? You've built your dream home on the water somewhere. If you got a vacation property, what does your real estate portfolio look like? What does your finance portfolio look like? All of these things you want to get super clear on in the long range. So then you can bring it back down to where you are now. And always remember the old adage that people will underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years and vastly overestimate what they can accomplish in 1 year. So be mindful that, you know, to take from where you are now to 10x yourself. Let's say you're worth, you know, $300,000 today and you want to be worth 3 million in 10 years. You don't need, or maybe you're making 60 grand a year now and you want to make 600,000 in 10 years. You don't need to double and triple year over year. What 10xing over 10 years looks like is actually only about 26% a year compounded growth. So just be mindful of that. The Kaizen approach versus the revolutionizing approach is going to get you where you want to go. We talked about the top-down planning. You've got to know how much income you need in order to hit your business goals, your personal goals, and your investment goals. And investment goals is another thing that I'm always shocked at how many real estate agents overlook. We're in the business. We have this amazing vantage point. We get to be our own best customer. So if you're not trying to allocate a certain amount of capital every year to take advantage of the opportunities that come across your desk, I think you're leaving a ton of opportunity on the table. And we don't have a pension in this. So how else are we going to get to the point where we only work because we want to, not because we have to? It's because we're going to replace our income with passive income we get through our investments. So definitely make an investment goal. Every year you should have something on the horizon that you're striving for. Then we got to figure out how many transactions that's going to require of us, what the balance between buyers and sellers is going to be, what the balance between repeat and marketing generated. So, you know, we've all got a database. How many did we get from our database last year? Was it 30, 40, 10, whatever that number is? And then the gap of what you want to get to is what your marketing is going to need to accomplish. There's definitely things we can do, and we're going to go through some stuff that's free that you can do to boost your repeat and referral business. But I always like to try to make my plan so comprehensive that I can clear the gap just with marketing alone. That way it's all gravy, all the increased business that we get from repeat and referral. And then you also want to know your profit per transaction, which is, I'm going to suggest to you is 50% of gross commission income. Then you take it, you add it all up. You've got the tool now. Make sure you take this step, and you'll calculate your taxes. It'll auto calculate it at 30% of business income. If it's different in your jurisdiction, go ahead. That's sort of predicated on the idea that you've got some sort of corporate sheltering. I used this example on where $1 million would go: 150 grand in tax, $500,000 in expenses. Your personal expenses, just your budget alone, might be 150 grand. Invest 100 grand. Create a 3-month savings buffer if you don't already have it. Nice $20,000 trip. Spend $25K if that's your style on charity, and you got $10,000 for whatever else comes up. Which means your after-tax take-home on $1 million would be about 350K, which is nothing to sneeze at. And if you want more, just scale the business more. Don't think about ways that you can shave business expenses. Think about ways you can scale the business up on the same percentages. I showed you how this works. Make sure you take the time to go through this, plug your GCI goal in there, and figure out exactly how many contacts. You can use my numbers here this year and then actually track your numbers so that you can put in your real numbers next year. But these are numbers after 10 years of tracking the average agent on our team. This is what we expect and forecast our agents to do. I imagine it will ring relatively close to what you guys accomplish. So you can use this for forecasting, and then please do go ahead and blow these numbers out of the water. I'm sure you can. Scorecard, like we said. All right, moving on. 7 components to your business. Your plan needs to have a lead generation plan. You need a lead conversion plan. You need to make sure that you've got the best possible presentations. Every year we update our presentations to make sure that they address the current sentiment of buyers and sellers, to make sure that they are addressing the current objections of buyers and sellers, and that they're updated with the most relevant statistics, your personal statistics, how they compare to the market, etc. You need a plan to upgrade your service every year. If you're not making little incremental improvements to the service that you offer, bringing more and more value to the client, then you run the risk. I think we run the risk as an industry of being disintermediated by these big prop tech and Wall Street companies that are coming in and trying to eat our lunch. We've got to constantly sing for our supper and bring more and more value. And that's going to prevent that race to the bottom when it comes to commissions as well. You can continue to increase the value you bring to the market and protect the commission that you're used to getting. Transaction management. As you scale, as your business grows, you need to get more and more intentional about transaction management, creating more and more leverage, as well as nice little things that manage the process seamlessly for the client, because that service doesn't stop once the deal's written. It goes all the way through to the end. And that transaction management is a very pivotal piece for clients. Once we've got them through that process, we want to put them onto a client appreciation program so that we can, again, keep their 5-star experience rolling, as well as maximize the amount of repeat and referral business that we get from every client that we bring in. And then lastly, the last component is your operating system. So you want to make a decision this year as to, what tweaks to your overall operating system are you going to use? And usually this has a lot to do with personal development. And we're going to talk about some of the stuff I recommend you take a look at as we get a little later into the presentation. So lead generation, you got website, which leads to registrations. That's what we do with REW. That's going to be your number one. You got your sphere of influence. A lot of people on this call have vast databases. It's about unlocking as much potential as we can through that. And we're going to talk about how to do that. And then of course, content. And I'm talking about evergreen content. I'm going to give you some tips on how to leverage yourself as well as best you can with content. I showed you a little bit about how to forecast how many leads you're going to need. Again, I used 1.5%. You can use this based on your goals. That's on creating 42 deals from ads. You need 2,800 leads. Take your own cost per lead, plug it in, and you should have a budget that perfectly fits with what you're trying to do or overshoot what you're trying to do. Pay-per-click is obviously going to be the fastest and easiest way to scale, but I do recommend investing in SEO as well, because it's going to give you a lower cost per lead over time as you bring more and more people to your website organically. So you should have a budget for that as well. And I did have that in the budget. That's not a plug for Morgan, whether it's just pay-per-click and SEO go hand in glove. You've got to have both. And then Facebook. And Facebook, I don't really look at for lead generation as much as I do look at it as a way to drive traffic back to. So you have to market your listings. One of the places that you're going to market them is on Facebook. Your intention should be to drive all that traffic back to your website, have people register, and of course, create more leads. And you can get some relatively low cost leads that way. Center of influence. This would be zero cost. So the opposite of shelling out cash every month. This is stuff that you can do to just boost the amount of sphere of influence deals you get in a very automated way. So first step is called the big purge. And I actually have a document here that I'll send you guys all at the end as well, which walks you through step-by-step how to do this big purge. I learned this year. I can't believe it took me 20 years to figure out how to do this. But basically what you want to do is you go into your phone and you export all of your contacts. Then you go into Facebook and you can pay a VA to do this. And you grab maybe the top 500 connections you have. Again, this is all in the document, how to do this step by step, and you export that. Then you do that same thing for LinkedIn. You do the same thing for your email client, maybe it's Outlook or Gmail. You download all of those. And what you're doing is you're just creating a master spreadsheet, whether it's in Google Sheets or Excel, whatever you work with. And you want to go through and figure out, you'll be surprised at how many contacts are not in your CRM that should be. And these people all need to be into the CRM so that you can put them on your client appreciation program. So you're going to find that a lot of your Facebook folks, you only have email for them. So then you're going to send an email saying, hey, what's the best number to text you out if something came up, or however you want to phrase it. And you're going to try to fill that out. You can also use services like skiptrace.com and things like that to try to find people's cell numbers. And again, having a VA help you to do that for under $10 an hour is definitely the way to do that in a leveraged way. But again, create the big database at the beginning of the year. You're going to find you've got an extra couple hundred people that you didn't even think to put in your CRM before. And we know the law of averages. If you put another 200 people in the CRM, 20 of those people are going to move next year. So, if you can capture even half of that, that's a highly leveraged thing to do. It's going to boost your sphere of influence. The next one is a radius search. So you can do this either using the REW search platform, or you can use your local MLS. We use our MLS just because the radius search is really, really accurate. We draw a 1 kilometer radius around all of our past clients' homes. And then we set it up so that it sends them a digest monthly of everything that's active or sold. This radius search is going to give a branded touch once a month. It's going to keep you top of mind, and it's going to be really helpful for your clients to be able to see what's going on. And at some point, somebody's going to see that a house down the street sold for how much, and what are they going to do? They're going to call you and say, if my house is worth anywhere close to that, let's get it on the market. It's time. It'll happen. It happens for us. I can tell you, this is a home run idea. Get everybody set up on a radius search. What I do is when I make my initial calls, if I haven't called people in a long time, I say, we've got this great tool that just came out. A lot of my clients are really loving it. What I do is I draw a 1 kilometer or 1 mile radius around your house. And that way it's going to keep you informed of everything that's either hit the market or sold. And you'll only get that on a monthly basis. Would you be interested in receiving that? And they all say, yes, please. And then if you don't have their address, well, guess what? You're going to ask them for their address right at that moment and plug that in as well. So that's a great way of going through your database and showing up any of the people whose addresses you don't have. You'll get that by offering value in advance. But the radius search, the more people you get on that radius search, the better. And then the real estate related goals call. And this is another time where you have to pick up the 10,000 pound phone, but it's a really easy call to make. And you just call up your best people and just say, hey, I'm just taking some time today to call my best folks and just find out what real estate related goals you might have for 2022. And that might be, maybe you're looking at refinancing, maybe you're looking at doing some renovations. In either case, I'd love to be a resource to you and provide some referrals. Or perhaps you're thinking about buying an investment property or potentially even moving. Have you got anything real estate related that I can help you with in 2022? Right? So you kind of lead the witness a little bit. Let them know that you want to be of service. No one's going to be upset about that call. And you'll be surprised how many people will tell you what their goals are in advance. And you will actually be able to forecast your whole year out based on knowing what people may or may not be thinking. So if you've got, your top 100 clients in your database, go through, have the real estate related goals call with them. And you're going to know in January what you've got cooking for the rest of the year. It's a really, really smart way. It's going to give you the quiet confidence that you're going to be kicking ass all year long. So that's the sphere of influence tips for you. Throw that in there. And then market updates, highly leveraged. I would recommend at least quarterly, but if you can put out a video that you would just upload to YouTube and send out an update on what's going on in the market. This is a really important touch. And at the end of every one of these updates, you let folks know if they're curious to know what their home might sell for. They can start that process right here with the home evaluation tool, and you can use the one REW provides. Or if you're curious to know what homes are on the market, you can start that process right here as well. And there's another link right below the video that takes them to the listings that are for sale. And you've got a report on who clicked those links at the end, and you know exactly who to follow up with. So these are the tools we use to boost everybody on our team's center of influence, and it works like a charm. So hopefully you guys got value out of that. Next up is content. So I just talked about that. Market updates, you want to post them on YouTube, and you also want to have a blog on your website. And so you post them to your blog as well. Really important piece because it gives you credibility as well as positions you as the local expert. And so all you do to do these market updates are pull the stats and then interpret the stats. So people don't just want to hear numbers, they want to hear what they mean. And so you look at the stats, pick 2 or 3 little anecdotes that you want to share, explain to folks where things are at. And, you know, don't necessarily need to pull out your crystal ball. Just tell people where things are at with respect to, you know, how fast homes are selling, what the months of inventory is, what the total sales, you know, the average sales volume is, that kind of stuff, and what that all means. That's what people want to know. What does this mean to me? So just share that. I know a lot of people are scared shitless when it comes to video. And I was this way as well before. I didn't like the way I sounded. I didn't like the way I looked on video. How many people in here know that if they would do exponentially more business if they just got their head around video? Who's doing video? Have we got some? All right, nice. Nice job, Jay. Well, what I know is that video has been an absolute game changer for my business. And I highly recommend that everybody get their head around doing this. So the content you want to have, so this is all about business planning for 2022. So you're going to create a content calendar from this. So what are you planning on doing? It's going to be a quarterly market update and then perhaps a monthly thought leadership. So what do I mean by thought leadership? Well, that's things that are evergreen, like the 5 things you need to know before you list your house, or the 3 things every buyer needs to do in order to be competitive, right? These are these types of things. So you come up with these ideas and then you record them, you post them on YouTube, and you post them on your website. It's going to give your website some additional SEO, and it's going to give you an evergreen piece of content on YouTube. This type of thought leadership content is going to be an attraction. So we've got, you know, forced registration, we're running ads and we're, you know, pushing that. This is more of a pull marketing. Okay. This is where we put stuff out in advance. People go, wow, that's really beneficial to my world. Thank you. I appreciate the content. You seem like you know what you're talking about. You'd be the obvious choice. So I just beg of you, consider getting over whatever it is that's holding you back from doing video and start putting these types of thought leadership and market update videos onto YouTube and sharing them out to your database. It's a game changer. And then lastly, it's a little less intimidating, I suppose. It's just the curation of news. So anything that you see, you know, with respect to your local market or even at a macro level that you want to share, you're just taking interesting pieces of news and sharing them across LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. This is going to keep you top of mind and again, position you as the authority and the conduit to all things real estate for the people in your database. I highly recommend, however, that you start with video because it allows you to do this one pretty cool thing. So you start with video and you post that, great. Now you've also got the audio from that video that you can create a podcast out of, okay? You can also chop that video up into small little segments, whether they're 30 seconds or a minute, little sound bites that you like, and you've got Instagram story or Instagram Reels content, as well as Facebook content that you can post. Then you can actually take the sound file and get it transcribed on rev.com. And then you take that and you can actually hire a writer on, you know, Upwork to clean up the transcription and turn it into a nice blog post. Again, it costs very, very little. And then you can take little snippets from that same blog post and you can turn them into quote cards that, again, you can post on social media. So, you know, starting with one video, that's all you have to do. And then a VA can pretty much handle the rest from there. And you've got all your content for the whole month. So the content game doesn't necessarily have to be overwhelming. You have to be on, you know, all these channels. the reality of it is if you shoot one video a month and have a little system for taking it and chopping it up into other pieces of content, which VAs can be trained to do that very simply, you've got all the content you could ever want to keep you top of mind to your database. All right, let's get into lead conversion. So lead conversion comes down to three things: your lead protocol, which is super important. That's the rules around how leads are handled when they come into the database. Nextly, it's your approach, which I recommend a consultant's approach. And then after that, it's the systems that you put into your CRM, your follow-up systems that are going to determine your success when it comes to converting leads. So lead protocol, there's a whole video on this that I put out, and there's actually a whole webinar that we did not that long ago. There's a whole hour on lead protocol that we did, to a real deep dive. But speed to lead and the double call are what I want to show you today. Make the plan next year to implement a plan for speed to lead. And I'm talking about getting on the phone right away, not necessarily a text or an email, a live phone call as fast as you can. And you have to decide, is that you? Is that a team member on your team that's licensed? Or is that somebody that you're outsourcing to, like an agentology or a structure? And then the double call. Most people won't pick up, call them again. Your connect rate's going to increase by 30%. It's all about efficiency and getting people on the phone in the moment while they're thinking about real estate. After that, though, if they're not answering, you want to make sure that you've got a text and an email sent out right after that, so that you have the opportunity to meet them where they are. Some people just don't want to talk on the phone, and that's great. We want to respect that, but they might reply to a text, they might reply to an email. I always think start with the phone. If it's not successful, move to plan B and C and meet them where they are. And then this is the golden piece of knowledge, and nobody wants to hear this because everybody likes to call leads once, maybe twice, and then give up on them. But of all the teams that I network with, and I'm coached by John Sheplack, he's $1,000 for 20 minutes. And he tells me that all the teams, and he coaches, I think 5 of the top 7 teams in the world, they all got their leads on a 10+ minimum contacts. I looked at our CRM and we were at like 3 or 4. We switched that up, got to 10+, conversion went through the roof. So it's just about not giving up on these leads. Some people need to be called 10, 15 times before they're going to answer the phone. And this is where an inside sales agent is going to be really, really helpful, because we all know we're busy and likely we're not going to call past 3 or 4. But I can tell you the gold is in the 10+. So make that part of your lead protocol for next year as well. Consultant's approach. So step 1 is, and again, we got to create some bandwidth. So one of the things I recommend you stop doing is running out to service buyers without having a buyer's agency meeting with them. First, make this shift in your mind and enjoy the just beauty of not working with people and running in this reactionary mode when every time a buyer asks you to show them a property. Gear into an exclusive agency meeting, run a presentation, and make them make a decision. Do they want to work with you exclusively or not? And either answer is fine. But what you aren't going to do is give your time away to folks who are not committed to you. So that's number 1 with the approach. That's going to give you back tons of time. I highly recommend everybody make that decision. If you want more help on how to do that, we actually do have a video that we did. It's in the library as well on exactly that with the sales process video that we did. Effective scripts to qualify and book the app. I've made available our effective communication handbook as well, but you're going to want to make sure that you take the time to learn scripts to find out people's timing, whether or not they're qualified financially, whether or not they've got significant motivation, if they're working with other realtors. You want to have your questioning dialed in, and then you need to have a value proposition that you can use to anchor the appointment. Something that they're going to say yes to. And again, all this is in our scripting book. I'm happy to help you guys on this if you need a little bit more help, but make the commitment to having effective scripts for these leads. Your conversion will go through the roof. And then where are you making those appointments? Make the decision now. Are you going to be primarily in person this year? If so, you need an office, a nice office setup, or are you more on the virtual side? In which case you want to invest in your Zoom meeting technology. Make sure you've got really great microphone, invest in your backdrop and get your virtual meeting set up right, because that's where these listing and buyer presentations are going to take place when you convert them over the phone. Follow-up. Automated nurture campaigns need to be value-based. A lot of people have like all this sort of fluffery in their nurture campaigns. Provide value. So whether it's the evergreen content that you created, that's a great way to disseminate it. If they're buyers, the 5 things they need to know about buying a home in wherever you are. If they're sellers, the 6 things you need to do in advance of listing your home to maximize the value. So that's what you're sending out in the nurture campaigns. You could also be sending out links to your reviews so that they can go and do their homework on it. All valuable stuff. Automated saved searches are super key. We just started, I can't believe we weren't doing this. We actually didn't have all of our REW leads set up on a saved search. So we paid a VA to go back in time and set everybody up based on their search. And now we've got it set up so that it's automated. Make sure you've got this tool working in the back end with your website and your CRM. Make sure that all the people coming to your site, once they've looked at a certain amount of properties, there's an automated saved search. That's what people want. That's the best follow-up you can be doing, is putting interesting properties in front of them. And then you've got to make the commitment. This is the habit that will pay dividends, to spend 30 minutes a day in your CRM. If you're not spending time in your CRM, you have no hope of doing the lead generation game at the highest level. You got to use the features. You got to use the notes. You got to log the calls so you can see how many calls you're making. Use tags like, are they a buyer, a seller, out of town buyer, empty nester, first time buyer, all these types of things. So you can segment and send relevant content to those different segments, and then use stages. There's no sales CRM that you can ever encounter that doesn't have stages, and there's nobody that's operating in sales at a high level that isn't using and managing their pipeline with these stages. So, you know, you've got the lead that comes in and then they're engaged, or then they're becoming active, or then they're under contract. Use those stages so that you can see your pipeline at all times, and you'll be able to predict well into the future what you've got in terms of active business. Okay. Presentations. Everybody should have a buyer and a listing presentation by now. Is everybody, let me see in the chat, is everybody working from a buyer's presentation and a listing presentation, at least of some kind? Give me a yes in the chat if you are. Right on. Nice, nice, nice. Good. Scotty, we'll get you there, buddy. Right on. Nice. Good job, guys. All right. So we're going to get you there. If you need a little extra help with buyer presentations and listing presentations, let me know. I've got some boilerplate ones that are really easily customizable. Just, yeah, like I said, just book a call with me and we'll get you squared away. So 3 things you need to have: pre-presentation framing. So this is how you create that price elasticity and how you create value in advance. So they show up basically sold to the appointment. That's going to increase your conversion big time. Then you need to have a really strong buyer pres and a really strong listing presentation. So pre-framing, I like to use BombBomb. One of the first things you can do is just create a BombBomb that isn't specific to them, but they'll think it is. Something in your car while you're on the fly, where you just say, really looking forward to our meeting. I've got lots of great information that I plan to share with you. We're going to go over X, Y, and Z, right? Value-based reminder. Really looking forward to it. If something comes up, please, by all means, let me know. Otherwise, looking forward to seeing you at the time that we have scheduled, right? You didn't say anything that is specific to them, but they will hear that as something you made just for them. And it's going to A, make them realize you're a tech savvy agent. B, it's an opportunity for them to start knowing you a little bit more, right? If they've seen you on video, they have this connection to you, and it really shows that you care and that you're on top of things. So that's a really simple pre-framing. Value-based reminders, links to reviews are really, really important. So if you've got, especially if you can start categorizing your reviews, like we have almost 700 reviews now. So we've got dozens of first-time buyers. We've got dozens of people for out-of-town buyers who specifically say things like, buying a home from out of town was really challenging. These guys made it easy, that kind of thing. So we take those and we curate the best ones to each market segment. If you can come up with, you know, a handful of reviews that are specific to their market segment, they're even more powerful. But just reviews in general are going to be great as you get started and as you're collecting them. And then share your video content, share that stuff. Hey, I thought you guys might, prior to our meeting, I thought you guys might be curious to see the 5 things that every buyer needs to know about buying a home in this market, right? And again, you're starting to get them to see you as the authority. When people watch you on video, it's almost akin to them seeing you on TV. So they elevate you in their mind. And it also starts to create that connection between you and them. So when they show up to the call, they're sold on you. The presentation itself, take the time to really learn the power questions. I've got a video on my Vantage Academy YouTube channel called the 7 questions you ask before every appointment. These are really important questions. It's a differentiator. Most people show up and throw up. You come to the appointment and they just start value dumping on you. They don't take the proper time to really understand where the people are coming from. So if you actually slow the process down and just ask them, say, you know what's got you guys motivated to go through the crazy process of making a move, or what's changed in your life, right? And you take notes, and then you ask them questions like, what's important to you when deciding to work with an agent? Or what would a 10 out of 10 experience for you guys in going through the process of buying a home? What would a 10 out of 10 experience look like for you guys, right? There's all kinds of questions that you can ask, but taking the time before you go into the process of presenting your value to really understand them is going to set yourself totally apart from the other agents they might have ever met with before. And it's going to give you all of the information you need to tailor the presentation to their style and to their needs. So get good at those power questions. The next step of the presentation, your job is to differentiate yourself and overwhelm them with value. If you need some help with that, there's lots of things that you do that you don't even consider to be valuable because you do them innately that are, when properly articulated to the customer, highly valuable. When you put them on a slide, these people are very impressed. So the idea is to impress and overwhelm with value throughout the presentation and advance the sales process. This is a little ninja technique. Prior to even asking for commitment, you book the next step in the sales process, which for us is called market education. And that's where we say, what I want to do is get out and look at some homes with you based on what we talk about today, not for the purpose of buying, but purely educational. You leave your checkbook at home. This is going to really help you dial in your wants and your needs, and it's going to give me a really great understanding of what you guys want. So when would be a good time to do that? Does next week work for you? Days or evenings, right? And you close for the appointment right there, right in the middle of the presentation. Because now they've already got a calendar. You've got something calendared on the books. How are they going to say no when you ask them for exclusivity at the end? So that's another really important piece to weave into your buyer presentation. And then a risk removal. All of our agreements are day-to-day. You just say, look, all I want to know is that you're working with me exclusively up until the point when you're not. If you don't like the relationship, if it's not working for you, far be it for me to hold you to it. I just want to know so that I can go and focus my time with other clients. And so you say, all I expect, I'm going to give you everything that we talked about here today in this presentation. All I expect is your loyalty. Does that sound fair? And they say, yeah. And you say, yeah, great. And this is totally a day-to-day contract. It works as long as it works for you. And it takes all the teeth out of it, but it is allowing you to set the expectations in the presentation that you only work with people who are exclusive to you. And then the promise script. Everyone has probably had some exposure to Gary Keller's promise script. I would adapt it to your own style. It's a little long and a little fromagey for my particular taste, but if you take it and adapt it, basically what you're letting people know is that you've got this promise that you want to deliver the 10 out of 10 experience that we talked about earlier, and you can kind of tailor it to what they said. Say all of your systems and all of your team are set up to deliver on that promise. Now, it's real estate and it's people. Things are going to come up, but we're going to do everything we can to get in front of that stuff and make sure that we can handle anything that comes up and get you safely where you want to go. And then, does that sound fair? They go, yes. You say, great. There's something I want from you. While we're working together, you're going to be coming into contact with more people than usual who are thinking about real estate. That's just like when you're buying a car, you see the car everywhere. Same thing happens with real estate. So all I would ask is that while we're going through that process, when you come across those folks and you think they could use my help, you don't keep me a secret. Does that work? They'll say yes. You say, great. What I'm really asking you to do though, is when you do meet these folks, pull out your phone, shoot me a quick text with their name and number, and I have 100% chance of following up. Does that sound fair? They'll say yes. You say, great. Well, I'm going to put my head down, get to work on all the stuff that we talked about, and I'll count on you for that introduction. You're programming people that you expect them to duplicate themselves over the period of time. You have no idea how powerful this is. Our clients duplicate themselves more often than they don't, but you have to set that expectation. They don't know that you even want, that you're even open for business. We assume that they know, but they don't. And you have to train them on how to do it. And that's by pull out your phone, send me a quick text, and then I'll be happy to get in contact right away. That's a huge piece of the training puzzle. Make sure that you weave that in. Okay. Listing presentation, same thing. You got power questions, same thing, overwhelm. I would include a staging and a moving concierge into your service. It's very easy to work with a local stager that will go and do consultations for you. And a moving concierge can just be as simple as your administrator calling and introducing themselves as their moving concierge, and they can help line up things like movers, cleaners, boxes, etc. But I would pitch it as their own moving concierge in the presentation. It's a huge thing to differentiate yourself and set yourself up for success. Case studies are very powerful. Talk about the time where you took a listing, got 12 offers, sold for 40K over list, and what the steps you took were to facilitate that. Not just the market is hot, but here's what I did in advance of the listing. Here's how I handled the negotiation. Have a case study where you can demonstrate how you engineered that outcome. So I would have 2 or 3 case studies in your presentation from last year. And then again, give them a communication guarantee, because that's really what their biggest fear is that you're going to list the home and disappear. So you explain your communication guarantee and then follow that up with, most real estate agents will hold you to a 90 or 180 day contract. Our agreement is essentially day to day, which means my feet are held firmly to the flames. If I don't live up to the expectations that I set here tonight, you can fire me at any time without penalty, with no holdover period. And they go, wow, they've never heard that before. That's going to increase your listing presentation conversion. It'll go through the roof. I assure you, people don't cancel if you do a good job. Next up, client service. We're going to upgrade our client service a little bit. So you need documented processes. If you don't have checklists for each one, I actually did a webinar specifically for the REW group on all of the documented processes. So if you are missing that piece, go back and watch that webinar. It's in the library. You need a communications plan for your clients, and that should be bespoke. You want to ask them how they want to be communicated with, but you definitely need to have a communication plan with each client. Meet them on the medium that they want, at the cadence that they want. And then you want to have some moments of magic that you intentionally weave into every client experience. This came from a book called Cult of the Customer, and it was a game changer for our business when we got intentional about it. We found that we were great with some clients, we would go over the top, but sometimes when we were too busy, certain clients didn't get the same attention or didn't get that same over the top. So we just made it part of the process that we would do these little moments of magic, and I'll share with you what some of those can be. All right, some documented process. You want to make sure that you've got a chain of commitment. You want to make sure that your sales process for buyers and your sales process for sellers is fully expressed. A communication plan. So again, like their ideal cadence. Some folks want to hear from you daily. Some people don't want to hear from you unless there's something to report. Find out what their cadence is and match that. Their ideal medium. Some folks want text, some want calls, some want emails. You frustrate people by not meeting them where they are. And then the big tip I would have is to make the commitment this year to play offense instead of defense. We all got probably a little lazy because the market is initiating contact with us. Say that again. In this market, the clients initiate contact with the agents. This is actually not how it's supposed to go. Agents are supposed to initiate contact. It's up to us to play offense, but we've gotten very reactive because there's so much business, there's so much flying at us that we just kind of go where the squeaky wheel is and we're playing defense. Well, one thing I've learned is that a defensive conversation takes about 20 minutes with a client. When they call you to go, what the heck's going on? Haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks. Is anything happening? Are you doing anything? Versus playing offense, where you call them every Friday or you call them every Monday and you say, hey, just wanted to give you a quick update on what's going on. You're advertised here, here, and here. We had these 2 showings, no offers, blah, blah, blah. I'll catch up with you again in a week or before that if something comes up, right? You're playing offense. That call takes 90 seconds versus the 20-minute sing for your supper call. So make sure that you've got a communication plan where once a week at least you're communicating with all your clients and you're playing offense. Those calls will be much shorter. And again, it's going to make sure their experience is 5-star and that you're not in that reactive state. Moments of magic, the fun part. Let's talk about that. Personal notes at acceptance is a really, really nice little moment of magic. Just take the time to appreciate them in that moment. It's a really exciting time for them. No, the contingencies aren't off yet, but appreciating that little milestone in the process is really important. You can do that. I prefer doing them handwritten, but you can go to a company like handwritten.com and they will actually take and sign in real pen ink a note card for you. All you have to do is give them their address. The next step in moments of magic is a little gift. I like to send them to the workplace because then a whole bunch of people see, their realtor taking care of them. So whether it's a chocolate fruit bouquet or it's, balloons or, whatever it is that you want to send, something shareable so that their colleagues get a chance to share in it is really good. So when the deal firms, we have a workplace gift that goes out. And then we do a personal gift at closing. So something that came up along the way. We're always looking for something that's personal. And then lastly, we do a 1-7-30 follow-up. So day one, this is a follow-up plan that's put into our CRM. Day one after closing, we call, hey, you've been in the house for a day. Anything come up? Anything I need to know about? How are things? No, everything's great. Okay, I'll give you a call in a week. Then you call again in a week. Hey, how's the first week in the house been? Anything come up? Anything I can take care of for you? You're looking for a little problem you can solve, by the way. Because when you put your cape on after you've cashed the commission check, this is where you create an advocate. This is where you create a client for life. And then again, 30 days later, say, hey, you've been in the house for 30 days now. You know, you've noticed some of the quirks and kinks of the house now. Anything come up? And they'll usually share with you, yeah, there's a few things, odds and ends. Do you want me to send my handyman over for a couple hours and take care of some of that stuff? Well, really, you'd do that? Yeah, you bet. Send the handyman over, boom, client for life. And then after that, I usually like sometime in the first 90 days to set them up on a little movie night. So they're in the new home. It could be an Amazon gift card, some popcorn, some Twizzlers, whatever it is, but you just send it out as a little care package. You say, hey, I just wanted to send a movie night as a little expression of my gratitude. You've already given them all these other little gifts, but you're still thinking about them within the last 90 days. These are moments of magic. This is the kind of stuff that people tell their family and their friends about, and this is how you rack up the referrals. All right, something a little less sexy. Let's talk transaction management. Who does it and what the heck do they do? Okay, so transaction management can be done by one of four people. It could be done by our operations coordinator. That's the super admin we talked about. It could be done by a dedicated transaction manager where that's all they do on your team. That's what we have. It could be done by a virtual assistant. Someone from my outdesk could be well-trained by that group there to step right into that role. A couple grand a month, virtual assistant could be your transaction manager, or you can outsource it a la carte, where you don't take the risk on the employee, and you probably will pay more once you get busy doing 8 transactions a month. But for $300 to $400 a transaction, you can have a company like Transactionally or Transactify, I think it's called, handle the transaction management for you. But you need to figure out who's going to do it, because implementing a transaction management system to your business now is going to allow you to scale. So what do you need? You need a file checklist. So everything that has to happen from the minute acceptance happens to the day that it's closed, or even afterwards. You need to have this person managing the condition removal timelines. Before I got this set up, man, I was the guy that would like wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh, it's subject removal day. I totally forgot. And now I'm begging and hoping for extensions. Like, I was not the most organized cat. So when we got the condition removal timeline managed by someone else on the team, all my clients' experiences and my relationships with other realtors improved vastly. The same person's going to coordinate all your inspections. They're going to coordinate access for appraisals. They're going to be talking to the mortgage broker to discuss financing. They're also going to be providing client communication, so little updates. How many of us are guilty of having everything under control, but leaving a client kind of in the dark for the week or 10 days between acceptance and firm, especially sellers, and you're not communicating really what's happening or where things are at? I used to be so guilty of this. And so when this became someone else's job, and now our clients are getting daily updates of what's happening and where they are in the process, clients suddenly felt like, okay, I feel like this is under control. Even though it always was with me, they just didn't know it. So huge piece there, move the client communication and always have you CC'd so you stay connected, but make it someone else's job. And then there's that concierge piece, the moving management. You know, you're helping them with transferring of their mail. You can just put a link in a document. Movers, it could just be phone numbers to movers, or you can offer to coordinate that for them. Sending them boxes. Amazon does a box delivery service. It's really easy. It's like $50 and boxes show up on their doorstep. Cleaners, everybody's got a cleaner in their Rolodex. If you say, hey, what dates would you like me to organize cleaners for? Make it really simple, make it seamless. That moving management piece, that's done by a transaction manager as well. And then you've got the auditing and submission of the perfect file to the brokerage, right? And I was guilty of being terrible for this. I would keep files at the end and then they'd be late to hand in and they would be incomplete. This transaction manager is going to make sure that this file is absolutely perfect before it goes to the brokerage. And they're going to make sure that all the documents are there in a timely fashion. So that's what a transaction manager does. And it's an important piece to have. Next up, improving the lifetime customer value of each of your clients. So reviews, referrals, and a client appreciation program that facilitates all of this. When it comes to reviews, The reason why you want to win the review game is so you can have this image here on the right where someone types in the best agent or best realtor in the area, and Google will go based on the amount of reviews 9 times out of 10. So you can see we're there with 685 reviews, and we're going to get so much additional organic traffic. People are more likely to click on your ads that you do with PPC as well when they see you down in the reviews. So that's why you want to do reviews. How do you get them? Ask at the right time. Best time to ask somebody for a review is right when they say thank you for something. Get the property accepted. Wow, great job. No problem. Hey, do you mind if I text you a quick link for a review? Right? At the height of their gratitude, that's the timing. Make it easy on them. Grab the link from your Google My Business account, send it to them right in that moment with the link that goes right to and auto-populates the 5-star right to your Google My Business account. Real easy. Grab the link, put it in a notepad in your phone, and just copy paste it right into a chat. Hey, thanks. It's been awesome working with you so far. Do you mind throwing a review on Google for me? It would mean the world to my business. Text message, boom, off it goes. A lot of people stop there. We found that circling back and asking one more time, you don't want to be a nuisance. I don't ask 3, 4, 5 times, but ask a second time. If you haven't got the review and you think this person is likely to be the kind of person who should or would give you a review, give them a gentle reminder. Say, hey, I don't know if you got a chance to do that review, but I just wanted to give you a quick nudge because I know you said you wanted to. Nothing would make more impact in my business than a glowing review from great quality people like yourself. Okay. And then this is a really important piece, is the intentionality with your replies. So one thing that I learned in just being a customer or a consumer is I stopped looking at the review and I started looking at the reply more than anything. I wanted to see how the business or the service provider interacted with their customers. And so a lot of people just don't even reply to the reviews. That's a huge mistake. Now, to turbocharge your reply, realize that there's 2 different types of people. Some people are looking for a realtor based on competence. They want the shrewd negotiator, the guy with the market knowledge, or the gal with the market knowledge, the local expert. That's competence. Some people want to choose their realtor based on character. Some people want to choose the person who's going to give them the warm fuzzies, the person that demonstrates that they care, the person that is going to give them all the time in the world. That's their criteria for making a decision. So with every review and reply, you have a 1-2 punch opportunity to make sure that both bases are covered. So when the client gives you a review and says, I had a great experience with the Scotty Humphreys team. They negotiated a great deal, showed me 20 properties right when I needed them. That's all competence. Okay. So then the reply comes in and demonstrates character. Hey, John, super appreciate you taking the time to leave a review. I hope you and Linda and the kids enjoy that property for years to come. It was an absolute pleasure serving you, right? Character. The flip side of that, somebody says, this person's the nicest realtor I've ever worked with. They were so sweet. They were so responsive, all those things. They're demonstrating your character for you. You come back in with the competence reply. You could say it was a ton of fun negotiating against the other side for you and getting you a great deal on that property, right? Or I really enjoyed working with you and analyzing all the different investment opportunities to find you the best one, right? You're demonstrating your competence. So reviews, make sure you're intentional and you get a 1-2 punch out of both. You're going to find the amount of calls you get from your reviews goes up through the roof. Referrals, keep them rolling. Perfect the ask. Get a script around asking. The ideal way to ask for a referral is to say, of all the people that you know, friends, family members, coworkers, who's the most likely person to move in the next 90 days? And that's the most specific way, right? Lead by example with referrals. Be the straw that stirs the drink. Make sure that you've got a referral directory. You're asking people for businesses that you can add to your referral directory. A little hack to find out who your highly referring people are in your database are to say, I'm putting together a referral directory. Does anybody have any great businesses that should be on it? The few people that respond are the people who are those megaphones to the marketplace. You want to make sure you take extra good care of those folks because they're the ones that are going to be talking about you. And then lastly, if you want to automate this, Client Giant, it's not cheap, but it does produce an ROI. We'll do retention gifts to keep you front of mind with your folks and help generate referrals. Client appreciation program, you should have in your CRM their birthdays. You should have all the holidays stuff that goes out to them automatically. You can use handwritten.com to have these really nice cards that go out. Their homeversary, if they bought off of you, you should acknowledge that. You should do an annual client party. And then, like I say, I think Client Giant for those retention gifts will be money well spent. Getting to the end here, personal development. You've got operating systems, a must-read list, and some rituals. Operating systems that I recommend everybody be on for this year are the 12-week year. This is going to allow you to get what most people will do in a year done in 12 weeks. This was a game changer for our team when we started working on a shorter periodization. Profit first is going to let you keep some of the money you're making, which is great. How many people have had the experience of their business being a cash eating monster? This is going to allow you to carve off your margin off the top and force your business to survive on the rest. Hugely important. And then the miracle morning is just a great way to start every day and crank your productivity up. The must read list are the books I just shared there, plus 3 more. You've got The Big Leap, Shift, because I really do think we're on the precipice of a market shift, and it would be very wise for everybody to be well-versed in what needs to happen. And then Fanatical Prospecting, which is if you need a kick in the pants, or if anybody on your team does with respect to prospecting, that book will get you amped up to get the phone in your hand and dial for dollars. So I recommend that be on everybody's personal development list. And just remember, guys, small changes add up to big improvements. The Kaizen approach. I know I just dumped a ton of stuff on you. Watch the replay, implement whatever it is that you think your business needs, but don't feel like you got to get everything done in the next 12 weeks. This is stuff that took me 10 years to implement. So I'm sure you can do it much faster, especially if you decide to hire a coach, but do not beat yourself up if all these systems aren't in place. I would absolutely welcome a strategy call, guys. If you want, I'll throw in the chat here my Calendly link here, so you've got it. And that way, anybody who wants to book a one-on-one time with me, you can do that with ease here. All right, and that's it.
That's awesome. So we'll capture that again. There will be a follow-up email, AJ. This was so great, and I have 10,000 questions. So I think we're going to need to do a follow-up because there's so much to unpack in this presentation. And you know, folks, we'll leave this up for a minute here with the Calendly link. I've also posted a screenshot. It's super easy to do the review. Just Google Vantage West Academy. You should see that screenshot. But we'll also distribute AJ's direct link for his Google My Business, so you can leave a review as well. I mean, guys, I can't stress enough how much our economy is driven and how many purchase decisions are made by these reviews. So what AJ was saying about, you know, his reviews and you guys focusing on your reviews in the real estate business, hugely important, but also for AJ's coaching business, right? If you have been blown away like we have in terms of this content, if you could please, I know it's easy to forget, and I love the reminder of the reminder for AJ to just do, you know, one more reach out. We're going to send you that link, and we'll probably send it to you one more time. But this content is so high value, and AJ donates his time. And so if we can help him out with those reviews, or of course, you know, take it a step further, jump on that Calendly link, do the 1-hour session, I think you'll be even more impressed. You know, nothing is better than your true and honest feedback in terms of these presentations and the service that AJ provides. So I don't want to de-emphasize that at all. Those reviews are so important. I'm personally working with AJ with some of our clients, which has been awesome. And like he said, 2022 has already started. You guys are late. And so you got to get on it. AJ, anything else, any last minute sort of words of how to contact you or what next steps are?
You know what? I love chatting with people through Instagram, which is at BW Academy. If you want to check me out there, I'll throw that in the chat as well. I always check my DMs pretty quick there. And yeah, just use that tool. I spent a lot of time putting that spreadsheet together for you guys because I wanted to kind of synthesize a bunch of different spreadsheets that we had and put it into one. Use that tool. Once you get clarity on exactly what it is you need to do at a granular level, the calm and the confidence that comes from knowing your plan is dialed for next year, it's just going to make hitting the ground running so much more enjoyable. And then don't forget to take breaks, have some fun. Cool.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who joined us today. We will follow up with all of the things and more that we've talked about. And again, if anyone has any additional questions for AJ or about REW, you can reply to Eliana's email and she will hook you up. Awesome.
Beautiful.
Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.